Once our country begins to reunify, how many troops are required? As the situation in the Taiwan Strait many people are speculating, our country will soon implementing the plan for a 5-year unified Taiwan. However, on the road to 5 unified Taiwan, the first is the obstruction of the United States. Once they send troops to intervene, then the 5 unification of Taiwan. How much will our country need to invest in the People's Liberation Army? Will there be a possibility of failure in the end? Recover Taiwan. Complete the reunification has always been the central idea in the early days. Neither chairperson in order to recover Taiwan have made great efforts. However, for various reasons, it has never been able to recover the main reason. Or is it because of American interference? Now, the strength of our country is gradually becoming stronger. We also have sufficient confidence in the recovery even with American obstruction. Our country is not afraid. But our country does not want a direct collision with the United States. Therefore, once our country begins to rule, thunder must be used. In the absence of U.S. support and time, quickly recapture Taiwan. For this, our country can only use military forces in the Eastern Theater. The Eastern Theater was the closest to Taiwan. 100 kilometers. If you advance quickly, you can land on the island of Taiwan in a few hours. The U.S. military was too late to support. Does our country have the strength to convince Taiwan? Here we go. Let's take a look at the strength of the Eastern Theater. Due to the proximity of the Eastern Theater, the coastline to the sea is longer. So the Eastern Theater become an important front line for our country to prevent the sake of national security. Our country has deployed 3 units, the regiments of the 71, 72, and 73rd Armies respectively. In the 3 armies, the largest number of Army personnel there are about 150,000. The Air Force has at least 100,000 men. The total force adds up to about 600,000 the size of the Army. It can completely crush the Taiwanese Army. The total number of troops in Taiwan is only 200,000. Although the Army cannot participate in cross-sea operations, Air Force and Navy in the Eastern can still expel 250,000 people. The Eastern Theater also often combat to exercise. The combat experience is extremely rich. Enough to recapture Taiwan. Once our country begins to rule Taiwan, many troops are required in order to cope with the resistance of the Taiwanese military. The Eastern Theater of our country will be discharged 250,000 beat Taiwan's 200,000 army in military size. In addition to the advantage of numbers of weapons, our country also has great advantages. You know, landing operations, amphibious landing and amphibious landing vehicles are absolutely a top priority. Various types of amphibious landing ships in our country. There were about 6,000 amphibious landing vehicles. One time can be shipped. 70,000 soldiers landed on the island. In addition to that, our country's long-range strike weapons. It's essential. The first thing to talk about is our country's Dongfeng. No matter which one it is, it can cover the whole ship of Taiwan. The power of the Dongfeng missile, if used in large quantities, likely to affect innocent people. Therefore, the only Dongfeng missiles in our country are Dongfeng 15. These 2 less powerful ones can be used, except for missiles. Our country's rocket launchers can also cover the entire ship. This is also our country's long-range weapons for support. Except for the 3 armies in the Eastern the Southern Theater of our country will also send 2 They were the 74th and 75th Armies. Under the emblem of the 74th Army, there is an amphibious heavy synthesis brigade. Will cooperate with the Eastern Theater for landing operations. These are just our country's coastal capabilities. If necessary, other war zones in our country. You can also dispatch troops to fight. The support of the Central Theater is the most important. Because of the Central Theater, most are strategic support forces. Quick support is available. And the Middle Theater doesn't have to defend the border. It's a full-scale attack. First of all, before Sycamore's entry into the city, it's one thing really extremely important to be certain of. That is, once the People's Liberation Army troops, the United States is eyeing, and even some of the horse front tribes behind them, will it brazenly intervene in the situation? Well known. All the time, the United States claims to be the world's hegemon through its own strong military might, rampage around the world. The Strait issue, it's America, a major direction to curb the rise of our country. Display, according to relevant data information, in the world, a total of 400 overseas military bases just around our country. About 300 were deployed. This is also the most powerful military force overseas. Even none of them. A large number of American troops, the vast majority of this is maritime air power, and in this one, the most eye-catching, but the infamous U.S. 7th Fleet. This is one of the ways in which the United States exploits the interests of other countries. Let's take a look at the strength of the 7th Fleet first. The 7th Fleet has 6 strategic nuclear submarines, 4 cruisers, and 8 amphibious landing ships. The remaining types of ships, the number broke through the 50 mark. The most important of these is a Nimitz-class nuclear-powered aircraft with more than 200 fighter jets. The number of troops has reached more than 60,000. According to the analysis of the international United States really dares to intervene in the unification of the 7th Fleet, definitely the vanguard of American intervention. But our country will also be fully prepared for this. After all, in recent years, the rapid development of our country's navy, by everyone's eyes, there are many things about making dumplings. Currently, our country has 3 fleets: North Sea, East China Sea, and South China Sea. Once the battle begins, our country is very likely to send the East China Sea fleets in the South China Sea engaged in combat. Needless to say, the East China Sea one of the major strategic goals during the development is to promote the process of reunification, and the South Sea Fleet is even better, because it can radiate the strait at the same strategic points in the South China Sea. The current South Sea Fleet actually owns 2 aircraft carriers. The advanced level of our country's navy is constantly developing. Region 055, even only the self-righteous Western world, I have to admit it. In addition to that, it is made of a domestic aircraft carrier, but with the addition of offshore nuclear power, the same. Not to mention electromagnetic and maximize combat effectiveness. Others like that are the Chinese Aegis, Second Emperor Lin, the navy of our country. It is already the 2nd largest navy in the world. If it is ranked first in the world by the number of ships. What's more, our army can also use rocket missiles and other weapons to volunteer. Aircraft carrier killer Dongfeng 21 Guam even has claimed waveforms that cannot be intercepted within 10 years. Dongfeng period will become the greatest nightmare in the hearts of the US military, and many weapon drills conducted within the US military. It's all worked out if we interfere with the trend of the strait, and well for them, let alone stop. So our country still has to be absolutely central in amphibious combat. That is, the landing operation. Amphibious operations will be the absolute main force of the strait. More than 60 amphibious landing ships of chariots and transport more troops than 70,000. With our country range, rockets that have exceeded 400 kilometers, and the sea and air zone cover composed of the J-2055. The landing operation is bound to be overwhelming. If China wants to forcibly retake Taiwan, minimum number of troops to prepare, 1 million enough. In recent years, China's breakneck growth, many countries are very afraid. They want to suppress China's development. He extended his hand to Taiwan, inspired behind their backs. Taiwan independence forces are becoming more and more rampant. China's reunification. This has made our country, adhering to the policy of peaceful receive a positive response from Taiwan's pseudo regime. They even take advantage of and tolerance of the people of the mainland to achieve Taiwan as the common goal. 1.4 billion. The recovery of Taiwan is just a matter of time. The original plan to forcibly retake Taiwan, it can be traced back to the founding of New China. Our country made detailed plans. Prepare 500,000 forces for amphibious operations. But I didn't know it was the outbreak of the Korean War. Let the People's Liberation Army embark on the road. We can only temporarily put the 5 receipts and assist them for many years. They want to use 500,000 force to unify Taiwan. Very dangerous. After all, the success or failure of the Chinese nation be a great renaissance. It is more about China's future decades. The development prospects for hundreds of years succeed, can't fail. How many People's Liberation Army troops can unify Taiwan out unless determined to reunify Taiwan? How many troops does the People's Liberation Army need to invest? Taiwan's total military strength is still less than our country is only active duty 2 million. A full 10 times difference is enough to see. Unifying Taiwan by force is like holding a gun. Various estimates from the outside 200,000, 500,000, 1 million people. In fact, how many people will it take to win? It depends. Compare the armies on both sides of the strait or strength, even weapons and equipment. Taiwan's military is not worth mentioning in front of the our country's the most powerful worker in the world. 5 theaters. A total of 13 army groups and 4 independent composite divisions is between 3 and 6. All the units are added up. The total number is approaching single out in Eastern Theater. It has 3 army groups. Under every army group It is also divided into 6 combined brigades. The total force is about 200,000. It's on par with the number of navies, and that's not counting the naval forces in the Eastern 30 combined brigades with at least 500,000 for the Taiwanese army. Therefore, on the recovery of Taiwan, it just depends on whether China wants to fight Taiwan or not. Is not qualified to bargain at all. The situation in the Taiwan Strait has continued to fray that once the Taiwan Strait War breaks out, cause hundreds of millions of China's many potential adversaries. I will take the opportunity detonate 4 major battlefields at the same time. Taiwan, the United States, can't take it. At present, Taiwan is one of the most likely flashpoint in the world for a major war. In the event of a war in the Taiwan Strait, must be unprecedented in scale. It may also detonate 4 major battlefields: Sino-Indian border, Korean Peninsula, main battlefields in the Indian Ocean. The main battlefields will be a tri-service joint cross-sea landing. If there is no quick battle on the main battlefield, Taiwan quickly, then China may be mired in a protracted war in the Taiwan Strait. Once China is dragged into a protracted situation may change. Daily Han is likely to take the opportunity to join China. So Hassan, who has been eyeing the Sino-Indian border, definitely come out to make trouble. Hassan is both a vegetable. If China gets into a tough battle in the Taiwan Strait, will definitely take advantage of the fire. In recent years, India's Hassan is frequently at the border of our country. Disputes. There have even been a few large-scale spills. Although Hassan takes advantage, but still ambitious, always thinking about biting back. So once the Taiwan Strait War breaks out in our country, India will definitely make small moves at the border. Open up the second battlefield on the Sino-Indian border. The third threat comes from the Korean Peninsula. Since South Korean President Yoon Suk, it was completely thrown into the arms of the United States. Once the Taiwan Strait War breaks out, South Korea may take advantage of this change the situation on the peninsula. Relations between North and South Korea have been tense. Once a conflict breaks out in the United States and South Korea, pressure on China to join forces to North Korea, but their military might already as good as some of the great powers in Europe. South Korea has 460,000 the number of soldiers is as high as 2,800. Their air force, with the help of the United States, and South Korea hold more than 20 F-35 if you are fighting on the road. Our army is not afraid. Our country has the strongest army in the world. The Eastern Theater of it is also the most powerful among the 5 theaters. The army occupies a quarter of the country. There were 3 armies, 2 heavy armies, facing a torrent of steel composed of thousands of armored vehicles. The garrison of each Korean Union army, most intractable, is actually the Indian Ocean battlefield. The Indian Ocean is China's maritime energy Chinese ships passing through the Strait of Malacca. Nearly 100 American ships in the owns Indian a military base on Diego Garcia and the United Island. States also sent their 5th deployed at this space. If a war breaks out in the Taiwan Strait, will definitely cut off China's connection with the Indian Ocean, contain China and trade with Africa. But our country is not unprepared. These years, China's massive land reclamation near the South China Sea. A total of 8 islands were expanded. The island can be used as a transit base for the South China Sea fleet dares to invade the Indian our country's trade vessels. Our military has the ability to make American troops once our country really regains Taiwan. At that time, our country needs to deal with each will affect the development of our country. So what are these 3 situations? How should our country respond as the situation in Taiwan becomes increasingly serious? To recover Taiwan, it will definitely increase the schedule. With the strength of our country, Taiwan can be easily recaptured. It's just a matter of time. Although recapturing Taiwan after our country recovered Taiwan, there are also many complex issues. These problems must be faced. The current issue of regaining Taiwan. Our country has been preparing for decades, but also the best and worst possible outcomes. Certainly, our country must be using the best way to recover. Only in this way can unnecessary losses be avoided. If Taiwan can successfully recover, the first thing to do is to do it at restore normal life on the island. Now Luo is ready to take back everything in Taiwan. Even using the way of Sycamore Taiwan, it is also necessary to reduce the losses and the casualties as much as possible and be prepared for U.S. sanctions. America's best tool is to restrict maritime trade. Once targeted by the United States, Taiwan Island will be difficult to develop. If there is a relationship between the mainland to quickly establish trade at that time, the United States wants to make trouble to start if you forcibly interfere in our country. It must make him unable to eat and once our country regains Taiwan, you have to deal with a variety of situations. Taiwan, for the United States, it holds great strategic value. For years, the United States has been selling arms to support Taiwan in conducting military exercises. This also led to the raging of Taiwan. Although the United States is always on Taiwan's side, in the eyes of Americans, support Taiwan Island to contain China's development. In a pinch, the United States will have no scruples about taking as a battlefield of confrontation, even thinking about how to convert building another Ukraine. Once the American scheme succeeds, the development of our country will be greatly affected. So America will never let our country successfully recover Taiwan. Even if our country has taken back the island of Taiwan, America will not let it go. Surely there will be other reasons to trouble our country. First, America. We will certainly denounce our country through international means. The United States has done this kind of thing in the Korean and Vietnam Wars. To the South China Sea arbitration case, it's all about the United States meddling in the internal affairs of other countries. Doesn't work. The United States will use force to intervene. Although the strength of our country is not afraid of Taiwan, which has just been recaptured, will definitely be affected. Once America wins the idea of destruction, then Taiwan Island is in danger. So after our country recovered Taiwan, we must strengthen the military defense of Taiwan. Once Taiwan Island has a well-developed defense system, will never dare to act because America knows if with our country hard steel, it must have wounded 1,000 enemies and if the loss is too large, the hegemony of the United States, and also have a huge impact. Such a situation definitely not what America wants to see. Therefore, the United States will also carefully consider before going to war. King has just come to power. Chinese mainland red forced our country to directly open the multi-sided Eastern Theater military exercise. The rocket army and other troops and air are all unsheathed demonstrate the current terror zone of the Chinese People's Liberation Army. This is also to make the Taiwan independence now pursuing Taiwan independence is and for a long time. The West has repeatedly threatened us with arrogance. Once the mainland attacks Taiwan, we'll pay a heavy price. The top general of the U.S. military, as long as Biden threatened to U.S. Pacific Fleet, will immediately proceed to the Taiwan Strait. There's no question. Taiwan military forces, it is not the biggest obstacle to our country's recovery. It's possible to do something about it. The United States supports Taiwan. Once the U.S. military insists on military firepower of the Chinese military, can you defeat the Americans? In fact, only from the ground. Let's take a look at the advantages of the Eastern Theater. Enough to suppress the U.S. Liberation Army. Current theater has 3 ace armies. These troops have been fully synthesized. Amphibian synthesis. Women are equipped with a large number of 96 tanks rabbit car. In addition, the Eastern Theater with at least 10 reloaded synthetic aluminum. Don't underestimate this strategic force carefully crafted by the People's Liberation Army. Large number of powerful 99 main battle. There are also various types of rocket launchers and advanced heavy weapons, such as anti-tank missiles. Not only can it penetrate the protective armor of enemy tanks, first time to accurately attack the enemy defense, military targets such as medicine depots and fire points. It certainly is. The U.S. military also has its own military trade synthesis an armored brigade, infantry battalion, field artillery camp, but in comparison, the overall firepower level of our army far exceeds that of the combination drone battalions and anti-tank battalions. There are also original battalions for combat. And don't think the People's Liberation Army hasn't fought the actual combat ability. The battle-hardened U.S. military 6 years ago. A medium-sized synthetic battalion of our army. It is said that our two synthesis it only takes 40 minutes. Successfully solved an entire elite-based regiment of the opponent has sufficient practical experience, still failed extremely cleanly. If our country deploys heavy brigades, I'm afraid it will only end sooner. Of course, the 3 ace armies of the People's Liberation Army is not simple. Say a trivia. The 71st Army in the Eastern Theater. The predecessor is from the top army, destroyed as many as 500,000 enemy in the war. They have made countless achievements and aid its brave fighting style is. The whole army is famous. As for the 72nd Ace Army, formerly the 1st Army, created by Mr. He. From the war of resistance against Japanese aggression, to resist this aggression, war and what this unit has done is incredible. And the 73rd Army. They participated in the Jingmen artillery battle before. Since the 1950s. The unit has been stationed in Xiamen, Fujian, now also equipped with lightweight, highly mobile troops. The military tasks they have been undertaking are self-evident. As long as the above orders, these troops facing the Taiwan Strait can be thrown into the battlefield at any time. Fight the enemy as possible. The current tensions in the Taiwan Strait, reports of predictions of war in the Taiwan Strait, the most worrying thing is the range of casualties that may be involved in a Taiwan Strait War breaks out. Dongji is involved in the four major battlefields. What are the four major battlefields? And the People's Liberation Army do reduce as much casualties as possible. The main battlefield where the Taiwan Strait broke out, it is in the Taiwan Strait. The battlefield involves more than just the People's Liberation and Army. Japanese, the Austrian Army, and others may take the opportunity to put more pressure on the People's Liberation Army to deter the US-led Joint Naval Fleet, PLA Navy. It is necessary to conduct a lockup. There are also thousands of missiles accompanying the battle. Let the enemy come and go. It is important to note that for the main battlefield, PLA also needs to be distracted from three other battlefields to respect. In recent years, India's desire to spy on Chinese border territories increase across the Sino-Indian border, attempt to seize Chinese territory. Chinese border guards guarding their border. With the Indian There have been many conflicts, large and small. China as a whole, the situation is still as you can imagine. In the event of a Taiwan Strait War, the march will surely come again, and on the grounds that the People's Liberation Army more troops is unable to illegally seize the Chinese border in one fell swoop is the Korean Peninsula. It may be synchronized with the Taiwan Immediately after the outbreak of the Taiwan Strait War also broke out on the situation on the peninsula, but because of this China relationship, South Korea has been holding back. Once a war breaks out in the Taiwan Strait, South Korea will use the meritorious deeds of the United States for the stability of the China-North People's Liberation Army will also operate simultaneously due to the military gap between what if the South Koreans get really upset and drop then the situation on the peninsula is really irreversible. Third is the Indian Ocean region. Why the Taiwan Strait War? Will it involve the Indian Ocean as far away as the sky? This is related to China's important transportation routes, mostly through the Indian Ocean, which connects to the South China Sea to Middle Eastern and European countries. In the event of a war in the Indian Ocean China's import and export trade will be blocked. Stricter focus. The United States has sealed off the South China Sea, the Indian Ocean, China's bridge to foreign communication. China has been cut off itself internationally. Situation of isolation. China's rights and interests in the South China Sea will also be violated by the United States. This is something at any time that China will never tolerate. For simultaneous fourth-tier city combat, the People's Liberation Army has also considered part of the Indian Ocean American conspiracy. China specializes in the South China Sea region and set up a military base on the island. These military bases play a defensive role in peacetime. In times of war, it plays a role in joint operations. For the other two battlefields, there is nothing to fear. India, even against the fragmented People's Liberation Army, enough for them to deal with for a while. As long as the Taiwan Strait War is won, India and North Korea will obediently run away with his tail, recover Taiwan. This is a historical mission that belongs to every Chinese. The conflict across the Taiwan Strait is still escalating. People are increasingly anticipating the return of Taiwan. Denying it. Recovering Taiwan is difficult. Since we want to recover, be ready to meet the challenge. Then if Taiwan is recaptured, what are we up against? Military experts believe after our country recovered Taiwan may encounter complications. This is also the most important thing we need to encounter. It is a fierce conflict of social and cultural backgrounds on both sides of the strait. However, after decades of brainwashing by in addition to the different political systems led to a large number of especially among young people seriously disapproving of the social culture of the mainland, there appears to be no communication barrier. There's a deep disconnect. A few years ago, some Taiwanese news has caused heated discussions in the mainland. Is absurd. For example, Taiwanese mock the mainland for not being able to afford tea eggs. Do not confinement. Taiwanese eat instant noodles at Shenzhen railway station. Behind all this ridiculous news, it is the prejudice of the entire Taiwanese society and vice versa. Between the Chinese generation and Taiwan, very little communication. Our impression of the people of Taiwan is kind of blurry. The development of the internet cross-strait communication of information. This kind of communication often stays at the level of deep-rooted environmental conflict between the two sides. If Taiwan returns to the embrace of the people on both sides of the strait to adapt to the very different system between cultural values, likely to become a ticking time bomb. And by then, many cross-strait policies welfare needs to be integrated. For Taiwan, they may be facing a profound social change. Change always brings pain. Arguing opposition is also to be expected. Compared to the small conflicts between ordinary people, more worrying is the concept of Taiwan independence that exists in the entire Taiwanese society. Will definitely go to great lengths to smear the same time. Use the contradictions between Western the people powers will inevitably lead to contradictions between the two parties, transforming Taiwan into destabilizing factors that exist in China. The current political environment in Taiwan is not optimistic. Independence forces are gradually gaining officials the upper hand. Openly divide knowledge. Young people are bewitched to betray their country. Such a social atmosphere will create a distance between Taiwan and the mainland. Farther away. Barrier between Taiwan and the shallow strait. It's about societies that are so different. Recovering Taiwan may be just the first step. And after that, how do we eliminate bias? Of grudges? Let Taiwan integrate into the big family is the tougher task. How long will it take for the mainland to reunify Taiwan? 72 hours. Japanese senior officials can handle the Taiwan issue so far, or unify by force? Safer. Since then, the Taiwan independence elements on the island can demonstrate to the United States the capabilities of the United States not further oppose China itself. It's also testing one of the important ways for the strength. The outside media has expressed concern about the Chinese army's always underestimated the true combat power. This time, it also happens powerful combat media take a look. According to our country's military experts, it only takes 72 hours to liberate Taiwan and China, of course. Do not interfere in Taiwan affairs. Result. With the current overall strength of China, the Chinese mainland is equivalent to an elephant team to Taiwan. Currently, the number of active duty troops reached more than 2 million people. The reserves have reached tens of millions. Advanced weapons are even more advanced than those of the United States. What America can have. And after decades of development, China has become the world's second largest naval power. The Fujian ship that has just launched for the United States, the world's most advanced aircraft and carrier. To unify Taiwan by force, the Air Force and Navy are crucial. So let's start with the Air Force must seize air supremacy in the Taiwan Strait dominance. In this way, military operations by the Taiwanese army facilitate PLA airstrikes and beheadings. It is beneficial for the Navy to send a large number of troops. It can also effectively intercept the interference of external forces. If the People's Liberation Army controls the territorial even if the United States the Taiwan cannot approach the waters near Taiwan. Naturally, we cannot interfere with action to liberate Taiwan. This way, the People's Liberation Army can isolate Taiwan from the outside even without the use of force. The People's Liberation Army can also implement the island of Taiwan lacks internal resources. Many supplies are not self-sufficient. Now 70% of Taiwan's supplies are dependent on external imports. And if a blockade is imposed on Taiwan then in just a few days, Taiwan will not be able to hold on. Either the Taiwan authorities will raise the white flag shot and surrender. Obviously, Taiwanese soldiers don't want to work for the DPP. Pre-war uprisings are possible. 72 hours to liberate Taiwan. Then the army, sea, air, and destroy the Taiwan army with absolute strength. The People's Liberation the fighter jet destroyed the radar airport of the Taiwanese army. Key communication facilities, such as military bases and other important targets. Then a large number of bombers were photographed. Taiwan army position to lay down the headquarters. Bombing by government entities destroy its command hub. Therefore, the Taiwanese army lacks effective command. After the People's Liberation Army also dispatched a large number of landing troops where the landing force destroys the enemy on the beach. Clear the way for subsequent troops to land on the scattered troops are in the rear, forming a pincer position with the landing troops and intercept the Taiwanese support troops behind the special force. It is to directly behead an important target of the Taiwan authorities. And as long as the People's Liberation Army, with the excellent mechanization of the army, basically occupied Taiwan Island within 3 days. As for the other remaining resistance forces, no longer legal. The Japanese side, former Japanese military attaché to China, the People's Liberation Army, may take less than 24 hours to take down Taiwan. China's intelligence gathering battlefield awareness is much better than what the Russian army has to do. Our country's satellite surveillance no longer afraid of America, far better than Russia. Plus, the advantages of the People's Liberation Army Taipei Taiwan authorities. In this way, The entire Taiwan group then solved the Taiwan issue within 24 hours. It's still possible. Just the sweep at the tail job may last for a while, whether it's 72 hours or 24 hours. We can't take it lightly. The Russian army is ahead. We must not make that mistake again. So, how long do you think it will take to occupy Taiwan?